Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I have felt so honored this last week with how many of you guys wanted the podcast. I had like 500 people message me that they wanted the link for this drop. The way you guys have posted on your stories, honestly, I need to repost them this week. So please, 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 if you listen, put on your stories and just make sure I see. Just message me until I see them, okay? And you just messaged that you've loved it already. And it makes me feel so special. That's what I really wanted for you guys. And this episode is going to be no different. What I will say is this episode is going to be a little spicier. We're going to get a little more direct with it. And I'm going to say things that's either going to piss you off or probably set you free, more likely the latter, where you know what, we're just going to say it. You don't have a time problem. You don't have a strategy problem. You have a my actions don't match my mouth problem, okay? And most people live like this. So that's what we're talking about today. But if you want to be the person who turns heads, the ones who's impressive, who's locked in, who's moving fast, who is building their brand, their business, their body, their bank account, their life. If you want to be that person, you cannot keep living like your goals are just a cute idea. Okay? So welcome back to the season where we do more in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. And like I said, today's episode is basically a mirror. And here's why. I love you guys. I do. But I keep hearing the same thing from women who are smart and capable and hungry, like already successful people, where you say, I want big things. I'm meant for more. I'm ready. And then you tell me your actual behaviors. And I'm like, are you ready? Because you're not showing it. And here's the thing is that wanting big things is not rare anymore. In today's creator economy, in today's social media age, wanting big things and actually being able to build them is not that rare. Saying you want big things is not rare. Having a notes app full of this is my year is not rare. But what is rare is becoming someone who builds it. What is rare is living like you mean it. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I say it because I've been the girl who wanted a very different life, but moved like I was still committed to my old one. And to just give you an example of what that really looks like is if you want the body, but you negotiate out of your workouts the second your day feels like a lot, then you don't really want the body that much, do you? Right? You say you do, but even today's a perfect example. I posted on my stories that I was in kind of a grumpy mood today and I didn't want to go. And everything in me was just like, oh, I have a lot of work to do. I had all these reasons, but I still went. And I had a PR. Of course I did. Right. But it's just because my emotions don't get to decide. For me, and this is what I said today, is that to me, discipline is loyalty to who you want to be. That is literally the definition. Your momentary emotions, like me being grumpy, me not wanting to go to the workout, it doesn't matter because those emotions, I literally won't remember them in a few days from now. I won't remember. So you have to decide what guides you most. So many of you guys want the business, but you avoid the things that actually create money. Even last month in January, there were some moments where I was avoiding. I was scared of that next level. And I was like, you can't say you want it, Mackenzie, if you're not going to do it. You can't say that. You just got to say, I actually want my comfort zone more than I want that money. Right. And then I had to act right. Or so many people, they say they want the brand. They want the personal brand. And I ask every person who I ask, what's your vision for your brand in 1 to 2 years? You guys can rattle it off like nobody's business. You have it in mind. But then you only post when you feel like it. Or you only post when you think it's really good. Or you have really crazy reasons for why you're not putting more into it. Someone today on a call with me was like, I'm too millennial to be doing that. And I'm like, that is a wild, crazy justification you are using to get out of going after what you want. And then you want to ride slow. So if you want to be the person who's unstoppable, your emotions can't be running the show like that. Where you can't be doing this thing where you almost do the things. You start and you plan and you hype yourself up and you make it look like you're doing it. But then life applies the smallest amount of pressure and you retreat into doom scrolling or busy work or I'm overwhelmed or I need to reset first or I'll do it tomorrow and I'm in a better headspace or I just need a little break. And I'm not talking about rest, right? I'm talking about the pattern where every time it's inconvenient, you bargain your way out of the life that you said you wanted. That's what we're talking about today. And even right now, it is 8:05 p.m. To me, that's really not that late. I live in New York City, okay? This is not that late here. But I already ate dinner. I was already reading my book. I just finished my book. And it was so tempting to just stay under the covers and be like, you know what? I'm just not, I'm going to be working for that rest of the night. I'm done. I'm done working. I'm just going to start this next book. I'm so excited about it. But no, I'm here recording this podcast because I say I want things, so I follow up with it. This is the part where I'm going to be so honest with you guys. A lot of you guys aren't failing, but you just have so many ways that you allow yourself to take exits and veer off the thing that you say you want. The biggest pattern I see that is going to take you guys out in these 12 weeks is that you use your emotions as excuse to quit. You use overwhelm as an exit. You allow emotions to bring up certain patterns. And here's the thing is that it's all a lot of it in the ways that you're going to be doing it. Like no one here is a beginner to self-help, okay? I don't think anyone here really is. You guys are all really self-aware. You're going to be sophisticated with this shit, okay? And most of the self-help books and most of the things on the internet make you think like I don't deal with that anymore because you graduated from level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But as you grow, you're just going to get more sophisticated with it. So a lot of people say that they're super self-aware, and we are, but we also aren't. That's one of the biggest things that I've really learned in scaling a 7-figure business is that we are so self-aware, and it is wild how unaware we are as humans. We are self-aware of others' emotions. We're aware of the obvious ways we sabotage. We are aware enough to read between the lines. But we're often so oblivious to the shady behaviors that we have that truly sabotage us, that hold us back, that are beyond the obvious doubt and fear. And that's so much of what we actually do in Fiera is uncover that. What's funny to me is that so many people talk about confidence just the same way I do, right? And I feel like what makes me stand out a lot, I'm just gonna toot my own horn, but honestly, you guys DM this to me, so I don't feel that bad. But what makes me stand out a lot is that a lot of confidence is just like affirm your way there, self-help your way there, self-love your way there. And then you guys wonder why you're not that confident. Well, the thing is that when confidence is often taught on a more surface level approach like that, you'll be good in a high season. But as soon as you start to get rocked or life happens or your income drops or you have to deal with a heartbreak or a job loss or anything of more hefty challenge, people crumble. And then I get a bunch of girls who say things like, well, I used to be so confident and I don't know what happened. And this version of me, the 26-year-old version of me was so confident and I want to get back to that and all these things. But it's just because you didn't build an actual true strong foundation of confidence. You were just in a high season. And I promise you, I'm saying this because I've had to say this to myself. I've done this myself. I've had to humble myself. But the thing that makes me so different is that so often I look at confidence from a bit more of like the shadow work lens, from a bit more of taking inventory of your actual shit, from looking at the dark side. And that's really how I built my confidence is I didn't do a lot of the self-love stuff because I tried that for a decade and it didn't get me anywhere. I was still struggling with eating disorders and toxic relationships and just putting myself down and feeling invisible and actually loathing myself on many levels. And it didn't get me there. It was finally looking at what was actually going on and becoming aware on much deeper levels of my behavior and my self-talk and the shady shit that I was doing. That's when I started to build my confidence. So a lot of you guys, I want you to go into this and just own that you're like, okay, I might not be as aware as I think I am on this. And I'm open to seeing new things about myself. And rather than looking at them and seeing them and critiquing myself, I'm just gonna say something like, that's super interesting. That is crazy that I do that and I'm going to fix it now. Because when you can go in with that mentality rather than deciding you're already self-aware and you got it, you're going to be able to do so much more. And that's actually a critical side tangent I seem to be going on right now. That if you can be a beginner and you can go into everything and be like, I'm open to learning, I'm open to seeing new things about myself, I am open to going all in and doing what I got to do, you'll do so much more in 12 weeks than most people do in a year. But okay, back on track, back on topic. You're using emotions and overwhelm as excuses to quit, to pull back, to sabotage, and to actually not do the things that you say you want to do. Because again, this episode is you have a my actions don't match my mouth problem. That's what we're really talking about, okay? So every time things feel hard, every time there's going to be too much on your plate, every time you feel really stretched, every time you don't know exactly what you need to do next, you retreat. Inside Fiera right now, a really cool thing that we're doing, and I'm debating doing it again. I'm not quite sure. If you guys are interested in it, absolutely come let me know because I would love to do it again. I'm going to do it anyway, but it's just whether we do it together. But a really cool thing I'm doing in Fiera is something called the Self-Made Sprint. And it's this idea that you're going to do more in 90 days, the 12 weeks, than you do in a year. And I'm actually teaching a process for how to approach it and how to do it. And we're in week 4 right now. And for the girls who started at the beginning of the year. And it's just this crazy thing where they're all being stretched so much. They're all doing, like, genuinely, I have screenshot after screenshot after screenshot of girls being like, I've done more this day or this week than I literally did all of the last 6 months. And that's beautiful and it's amazing, but they're starting to reach this point where they're being stretched. They're being stretched and it's that you're getting to that point of uncertainty and you're just in that middle, like we talked about in episode 1. And they're having to meet the pattern that they've had in the past where they retreat. And this time they're having to hold it. And it's so beautiful to watch how they're not playing that out anymore. They're not retreating. They're actually learning how to hold and go further so that they're going to be able to do so much more. But what I see happen when you use emotions as an exit, when you use overwhelm as reason to pull back, when your only way of regulating through fear, through doubt, through stretch, through uncertainty, through emotional exposure, which is always going to come when you're trying to get a hotter body, a more disciplined mind, a bigger bank account, a bigger brand, a booming business, all of these things. If your only true way to handle that is that you retreat, the thing that is going to happen is that you are going to waste months in this. Months, weeks upon weeks upon weeks. And I'm gonna be really, really clear here and almost like slow it down because I know I'm an Italian, I'm a fast talker. I use my hands the whole time I'm talking to you guys here, even though you can't see it, but I'm gonna slow it down really quick. When you use emotions as an exit strategy, when things feel overwhelming or scary or hard or exposing, uncertain, little vulnerable, if you always retreat, then you are wasting months of your life, maybe even years doing this. And the crazy thing is you do it to yourself. And I know that sucks to hear. The crazier part of this though, and it's actually wild, is that inside Fiera, I give girls multiple trainings, protocols, tips, coaching, tough conversations to solve it in a few minutes. And I just want you to sit with this for a second. I want you to grasp what a big deal this is. You are spending months on things that could be solved in a few minutes. You are pursuing goals for months at a time that could be hit really quick. You are wasting months in indecision in something that you could decide in the next 10 minutes. You are spending months taking that next step, making that next big move towards what you want. Whether it's getting in the gym, finally starting to train for the marathon, whether it's posting that new style of content, actually starting the business, pitching, putting yourself out there, whatever it is, applying to that job you want, you are spending months on something that could be done within the next few minutes. And I used to do it too. Okay? And I'm going to sound cocky, but you know what? It seems to get you guys moving, so I'm willing to do it. But I have built a life living in New York City, making salary-sized amounts per month, DMs weekly, daily, thanking me for what I do. Girls in my offer who literally cry to me that they're saying, I couldn't do this if you didn't teach me this. I can't even wrap my head around how this has happened in my life because I joined Fiera. But that's all available in my life because I went from waiting years on things to months on things to solving things in minutes. And you could have that all handed to you. You could change. You could literally get everything you guys want. Guys and girls in Fiera do. Every week, new people join. And every week, they're like, shit, I should have joined sooner. I just had someone today. She waffled on joining for months and she has a unique situation. And I totally understood why. And I supported her for every reason of that. But she joined and she messaged me today and she was like, I am even more obsessed than I expected to be. And you were so right about all this. And by the end of their first month inside, they're doing more than they have in the last 6, 12, 18, 24 months. I literally had a client come to me today and she said, just this week, Mackenzie, I have literally replaced 70% of my corporate income just this week. That is the most life-changing thing ever. Ever. Yet you guys stay in your patterns. And I'm going to be harsh for a minute, but I literally don't feel that bad because you're choosing to waste months on things that could be done in minutes. you negotiate a lot. And negotiation is rarely like, oh, I'll just do this later. I'll start Monday, which people always talk about. It's far more to the tune of, okay, I can either get out this project tonight for work or I can go to the gym, and work's a bigger priority right now. So I'm not going to negotiate there, which sounds really superior. But what are you actually doing? You're negotiating with the gym. Or let's say tomorrow morning, right? Tomorrow morning, I am planning to go work out earlier in the morning. And if morning comes and suddenly I'm like, you know what? It doesn't make sense for me to go to the gym in the morning because it's so packed and I'm gonna have to fight for a squat rack. Like, why wouldn't I go at 5 p.m. when it's a little emptier? Like, Mackenzie, you didn't think that last night, just now that it's time to go. Do you see what I mean? So negotiation often sounds reasonable. It sounds smart. But what is really happening is that you guys are so often negotiating yourself out of what you swear up and down you want. And it's just these sophisticated tactics we use to get out of what we say we want to do. Typically because, again, emotionally, it became inconvenient. We lost willpower. It would require a smidge of discomfort, or we're not addressing some underlying emotions. And what people don't realize is that negotiation creates a debt, and debts compound. And I've said this many, many times before. This is not new. Your effort compounds or your excuses do. I always try and make sure that my effort is compounding. The background on my computer, I'm just gonna actually swear it out loud, and my parents will be so disappointed in me, but that's okay. But my background on my computer, I am so rogue and savage. It's crazy because it's in huge letters, and people see it every day at my coffee shop when I go and work there. But the background on my computer says, "Shut the fuck up for 90 days and earn it." Literally, it says STFU to be fair, but still. And the reason why I say that is just because I'm a really big believer, as in this entire podcast episode, and that's been my background for like a year and a half when I was down bad and needed it. But I'm just a really big believer that you can get results in 90 days, and that if you can just let your effort compound for those 90 days, you're going to see the payoff so big. And the results might not come in those 90 days, but they're sure as hell going to come after. So I'm just a believer of your effort compounds or your excuses do. But when you're negotiating, it creates that debt. Your excuses compound instead. And so by the end of any given week, you've done a lot, but you've moved the needle very little. But again, it feels like we've had really good reasons. So you don't always feel like you failed, but eventually you do it enough and you're going to feel stuck. Eventually you wake up one day and you're like, I'm really not where I want to be. And I feel behind and feel like I should be further for my age. And I thought I'd be further by now in content or business or brand or with my body. And all these other people have results, but it's because their effort compounded and your excuses did. You acted more on emotions than loyalty to who you want to be, which again is just how I define discipline. And you guys are always working. I know my audience, I know my community. You guys are very driven, very hardworking people who you want to build. So you're always working, you're always putting the hours, you're always busy. But by the end of the day, if you have to ask yourself of like, what did I really accomplish? Right? If you were in meetings, you were organizing files, you were planning your strategy, you were doing admin work, you were researching the content to post, you weren't really building. You weren't really creating. You weren't really selling. You're not fully in. You were busy doing the things around the work, but not the work itself. Someone actually asked me the other day, they were like, how do you know if you're doing enough? And I think my answer was something to the tune of, can you end the majority of days, like 80+% of your days, and say, I'm really proud of how I handled myself today. I'm really proud of how I was emotionally, what I got done mentally for my goals, how I showed up in the gym, how I treated the people in my life, the way that I sold my business, the way that I operated, the beliefs that I had. Like, can you end most days 80% plus saying that you are proud of yourself? Can you go to bed and be like, wow, pat on the back, you did great? If yes, then cool, you're probably heading in the right direction. But a lot of you guys will either lie and avoid the truth that you don't feel that way, or that's not your truth. And that's the most dangerous kind of stuck, because you feel productive, you feel like you're working, but you're not really making huge moves. Another thing I've always said to people is, if you've been in the self-development industry, or if you've been in business for years and you're not making the kinds of progress that you want, there's always a reason. But a huge pattern is probably because you've been working, but it's not necessarily moving the needle. And that's what we got to get you guys out of, because I want you to win. And so it's not going to feel like you're quitting, because you're not, but you're also probably not facing the fact that you're not fully committed. You're not fully all in. You say you want the things, but your behavior is showing something very different. So let's talk about what this is actually costing you. 3 months go by, 6 months, a year. and things are better in life, but you're still in the same place. And that is literally my nightmare. I'm not kidding. That actually, if I think about getting to December of this year and feeling like I'm still at the same income level and I'm still largely the same brand and I haven't really done the big things that I want, like I feel the anxiety in my chest at that. That makes me wanna, like, act. It makes me wanna move. It makes me wanna go big. So that is truly my nightmare because I've lived it. I've lived it. I've had big goals at the start of the year, years that I was gonna go do these big things, but I end the year and life is different, and I've definitely had good memories, and I'm okay, but I'm not that much closer. And when you have enough months like that or enough years, the gap between where you are and where you wanna be, even if it's the same, it starts feeling wider. Because what's happened is that you're starting to erode your self-trust. You're starting to erode your self-belief. Time is kind of weathering you down a bit, right? And that's what we don't want. And again, I've done it and it's not like it's irreversible, but why do it if you don't have to? Why waste months when you can do it in minutes or even a week or a couple weeks? That's this whole season. Why would I take a year to do what can be done in 12 weeks? And you all have the capability. So that's the next question. How do you change this? How do you start doing more of this? Personally, first, I joined Fiera. And I know that sounds so biased, and I really suppose it is, but I think the truth is when you want big things, you have to play a smarter game. And I was constantly playing a smarter game. That's how I succeed so fast. I'm not repeating patterns, repeating mistakes, repeating sabotage. I'm getting myself out of it. And if I was seeing a person that I was constantly consuming, as you guys tell me you are, and seeing that not only have they been where I've been, but they have what I want and they seem to have it figured out. And their community is pumping out wins and wins and wins and wins and wins of all different people, girls in university, single dads in their 40s, entrepreneurs, stay-at-home moms, doctors, therapists, personal brands, hitting fitness goals, income goals, whatever it is, like Fiera does. I'd be smart and get in here. You take your time hitting your goals though. That's okay with me, right? But second, like what I would actually do is I would start getting really honest about what's happening. Stop calling it overwhelm when it's avoidance. Stop calling it strategy when it's procrastination. Stop calling it rest when it's really retreat. Name it for what it is. And that's been a really big part, again, that has made my flavor of confidence different and why I think I'm actually so confident. You don't just hear me talking about it. Everyone feels it. I'm always told when people interact with me, but that's because I'm honest with myself. I'm not lying. I'm not hiding. I'm not lying with myself. I know where I stand. I know where my inventory, and I don't run from it. And I don't try and hide it. I just kind of own it. I own the insecurities. I don't lie with where I'm at. So I think you have to get honest with what's happening. And then something that we have you do inside Fiera, and everything is really been built around this, is developing a bias for action. We finally got to the title of the podcast. So, what is a bias for action? Let's kind of talk about that. It is simple. A bias for action is when you don't know what to do, you do something anyway. When you don't want to do something, you do something anyway. When you fear something, you do something anyway. You don't wait. You don't wait for the perfect plan, conditions to feel ready for all the answers. You move first, you figure it out later. I look back with so much awe at who I was my first year of business because I just feel like I don't know, I was 24 and I did not have anything figured out, but damn, she was just moving and like she was trucking along. But one of the stories that I love from that time, and I still really hold it dear in this belief, is that I always just said that first year of business, I was like, I'll just figure it out as I go. Whatever. I'm just gonna get there and then I'll figure it out. And I meant that so thoroughly. What was I gonna do about my job if I earned all that money? I don't know. I'm just gonna get there and I'll figure it out as I go. What am I gonna do if a client gets upset with me about something? I don't know. I'll figure it out as I go. What am I gonna do if I have such an influx of clients that I can't handle? I don't know. I'll figure it out as I go. I was so willing to just deal with the problem as I came because I had this belief that I could trust myself and that I could do this. And it was never reckless and it wasn't without thought and it wasn't without regard for my nervous system to take all this action. But I was just had such a strong bias for figuring it out, for taking the action and learning as I went. Because here's what happens when you have a bias for movement and action and making fast decisions and not acting on your emotions is you learn faster, you get feedback faster, you build momentum faster, and you collapse time, which all of you swear that you want. But most people don't operate this way. Most people operate the opposite way. We wait until we have all the information. We wait until we feel perfect. We wait until we're sure. And then we wonder why we're not getting anywhere faster. So why do we do this, right? But we do it because action is scary. And inaction feels safer than action. even when it's costing us. Because there's a part of you. It doesn't even have to be the majority of you. It can be a small, very insignificant part that is just at the driver wheel taking over for you right now that feels like either the goal or the process to the goal is for some reason more scary, uncomfortable, or unwanted than staying where you are. Even if up, down, left, right, consciously, you swear that's not the case, you'd eat off your left freaking arm, like I always say, and you're left-handed like me, to not be where you are. It doesn't matter how much you intend it to be that way. If your nervous system and your patterns and your shadows and your behavior is actually showing that you're resistant to that, that little part will win. And that's not an evil part. It's not a bad part. It's just an afraid, scared part of you. And that's what we have to get at. That's what we get at inside Fiera. And this is the core of the episode. And what I really want you guys to see is that to be able to do more in 12 weeks than you do in 12 months, and so much of what I teach my people in Fiera is that you have to be able to replace your chronic avoidance patterns and your retreating and all these shady behaviors that aren't bad. We mean well, but just get in our way and sabotage us. We have to replace those with the bias for action, with the regulation, with the self-trust, with the self-respect, with the discipline, with the confidence. So many people could have very different lives, very sexy lives, if you could do it. And you know how I said some of you guys are taking months to do what could be done in minutes? This is why. So the pattern that most people have is they feel overwhelmed, so then they avoid, then their anxiety increases, and then their overwhelm worsens, and then they're eventually forced to act. But now you're acting from a place of dysregulated execution, which gives you this negative reinforcement of this is hard and wildly uncomfortable. And then the pattern repeats. The pattern that my Fiera formula, that everything inside that I had to teach myself and that so many others now have through working with me is they feel overwhelmed still at the beginning because you're human and you can't avoid that. And you work on everything that they've learned inside to change your confidence, your discipline, your identity, your self-trust, your nervous system. And then now they take immediate action and then they feel relief and progress. And so their confidence builds. And now they have this positive reinforcement of, wow, I can handle this and I feel good. And oh my God, I just made myself so proud. And wow, that wasn't even as hard as I thought it was. Holy shit, I'm going to hit this goal. I think I'm going to do better than I thought. And then you build this momentum that you wouldn't stop it for anything in the world because you're doing it now. And it's crazy how many people will say it's ADHD, it's a productivity problem, it's a discipline problem, it's a lack of time problem, if they only had the right strategy problem, if it's a job market problem. No, it's a I run from discomfort pattern. The one thing that I've taken a very long time to develop over the years, but I've done it, and it's going to take more than you guys just listening to this one episode, is having a bias for action when it comes to these emotions. Now, when I feel anxiety or I feel overwhelm or I feel discomfort, I move now. I take action now. And naturally, you guys, I really hope someone, like, I at least hope most of you believe me when I say this, but naturally, I'm an avoider. And I've never been like an obvious avoider. It's overcomplication and sophisticated negotiation. It sounds smart. I can convince you out of it. I really can. I can convince you I am on track and doing great things, but I'm really just avoiding. That's who I am naturally. I will naturally avoid. If I let my mind and my nervous system run rampant and I don't maintain it, I'll just avoid. But I've had to train myself to realize that when I avoid, I feel worse. When I avoid, I don't get what I want. When I avoid and put sophisticated excuses on top of it, it ruins my self-trust. When I avoid, I become less confident, and I hate that more than anything because I spent most of my life there. And it's proven to myself over and over and over that when avoidance is my response to difficult emotions or whatever your pattern is, your problems worsen. But I've also had many reps of proving to myself, oh my goodness, it actually feels wildly relieving to take action immediately. Wow, it's like my anxiety just went away. Wow, it wasn't even that bad. It was fun. You're training your brain. I want you guys rather to train your brain that action relieves overwhelm, not avoidance. And I love it if you can get a couple reps in, but it's, again, going to take more than just this episode. But here's what I know about you. You are capable of doing so much more than you're currently doing. But you keep stopping yourself. You keep giving yourself exits. And if you want this year to be different, you have to stop doing that. You have to stop using overwhelm as a permission to retreat. You have to stop negotiating yourself out of your own goals and desires that I know you really want and you can have. And you have to stop being busy and actually get productive and build. In Fiera, we train you. I want to be so clear. We train you to become that version. It's not just inside you guys. It's not just cutesy nice videos that you watch and hope results change like most places. I have you building. I have you taking action. I have you moving. I call you out when you're using overwhelm as an exit. I hold you accountable when you start negotiating. We keep you building when your patterns want to keep you busy, right? Like it is a literal training ground. Tier 1 is $79 a month. You guys, it is silly. It's genuinely silly. I get messages from almost every Tier 1 girl who joins, almost like clockwork, anywhere from 24 hours to 3 weeks in, where they're like, shouldn't I be paying more for this? Or I can't believe this is $79. Or I have paid $10,000 for what you give me for less than $100. I actually think we might start taking away how much we give in there because I'm coaching you guys every single week for $79 a month. There is more in that course than you probably have of everything else combined. And it's just crazy. I genuinely might start taking away. So I would hop in now because once you get it, you get it. But I want to ask you one more question. I want you to ask this to yourself, actually. Ask yourself, if I wanted this life that I say I want, these big goals more than my comfort, what would I do right now? And what would I stop doing right now? So I need you to stop romanticizing the person you want to be while protecting the version of you that you currently are. And I need you deciding that the results you want to happen, the timeline that you want to collapse, the way you're wanting to hit your big goals, it can happen. But develop that bias for action. And if you're done opting out of the path that you really want to take to get to your goals, if you're genuinely ready to become the person you keep picturing, Fiera is open. And it's not for the spectators. It is for those who are ready to be impressive in a my life finally matches my standards way. So that's that, okay? I love you. I believe in you. I'm not going to coddle you. I held a mirror up today. And the way I see it, you can either keep doing what you're doing or decide this is the week that you really make a change, that you really step up, that you stop giving yourself exits. But you can do this, okay? I love you guys, and I would love if you could share it. Tag me in your stories. If you're on a walk while listening to this, snap a selfie of your walk, put the podcast up, whatever you want to do. Come message me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to chat with you guys. And I already know I'm going to see a lot of you guys joining Fiera within this next week. And you know what? I might have something special for you if you do. Let's go see how good it can get, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.